Jon Scott, Lindsey Moppert, Vic Carucci, still with no microphone for himself.
Yeah, and I think our viewers are upset about it.
Yeah, they are upset. They don't like us standing on Sports Talk. They don't like you not having a microphone.
I like keeping my hands in my pocket when it's a little chilly.
Yeah, he's the anti-Talladega Nights. I don't know what to do with my hands.
I think he likes it.
He does. He likes the attention. Everyone's rallying around Vic, just like so many on the Bills rallying behind Tyler Bass. A franchise record 61-yard field goal. And guys, it would have been good from even longer than that here. And as Reed Ferguson pointed out after the game, someone who well aware of the kicking conditions in here, that end of the stadium is the bad area, Vic. You've seen plenty of kicks down there. The closed end towards the scoreboard, you don't really know where the ball's going to go. So adding to the difficulty and impressiveness, let's talk about, though, the emotion, Lindsey, of Tyler Bass and retribution of sorts.
Yeah, I mean, talk about mental toughness. Tyler Bass, everything that he's gone through the past couple of months, you know, the Bills bringing in a kicker and having some competition for him after some early season struggles. It was really nice. And as you said, everyone using the word emotion to describe that reaction and the feeling afterwards after he made that kick.
Let's not forget, this is a bottom line business. This is win or else. And the or else generally means if you're not doing your part to help a team win, you're gone. That goes for everybody, coaches, general managers, and especially players. They turn rosters over. Tyler Bass was on the verge of finding himself elsewhere. And, you know, he just seemed to be, I don't know if hanging by a thread is a fair way to describe it, but the scrutiny was intense. The criticism was there from that 44-yard miss against Kansas City in the playoffs. And I just think you see a guy who pulls it together in a moment like this, which is astounding. And to have Sean McDermott recognize that and say, look, this is what a great story is all about, the belief, how he stood up and did it, that's great. But, as Tyler Bass said, he's only as good as his next kick.
It's just, I think this game epitomizes the ride that Tyler Bass has been on in the last 9 months, 12 months at this point in time. I put out, the Bills were bad in the first half. Oh, but at least Tyler Bass is making a 40 and a 49-yard kick. All right, so we're seeing that. What does he promptly do when they take the lead in the third quarter? He misses the extra point. What does he do on his next kick? Defy physics. I still don't know how the ball went in. It ricochets off the upright, and people are like, oh no. Are we back to square one with Tyler Bass? And then we're all talking through the sequence at the end of the game of what is Sean McDermott going to do? They're at a weird point in the field with the clock. What do you trust Bass if he misses it? What if it's blocked? All things that have happened to him recently. And lo and behold, no hesitation, they trot him out there. And the dude who was known out of college for having an incredibly strong leg not only had serious distance, but he kind of had a nice little baby fade. He's a dang good golfer, but he faded it in there really well.
Yeah, and Sean McDermott saying, too, when asked about, you know, that decision and talk about, you know, recent late game decision making, why did you kind of put him in that situation? And he said he saw him during warm-ups and liked what he was seeing. But, yeah, Tyler Bass, I mean, talk about coming up clutch in a moment like that.
Yeah, and one of the things I had asked Tyler was, okay, longer kick. Are there different mechanics involved? And he stopped me even before I could ask the full question and said, no, every kick is every kick. Sure, you might hit it harder for the distance, but he said, I had to treat that one like I would treat a 30-yard field goal. I couldn't treat a 61-yarder different. And I think differently. I think that the mentality of that probably spoke volumes about why he makes it.
It was high. It was a high kick for a kick that is that long. I don't know kicking very well, but I'm just watching Jonathan Acosta's video from field level, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, this thing is not a low liner like you usually see from kickers of that distance, and it's kind of also retribution for the Bills who lose on a 59-yard field goal in Houston here.
Right.
So the tide's kind of turning here.
Redemption.
I want to turn it, though. I don't want to go negative too early, so we'll start off with the comeback. And I know, Vic, you specifically had mentioned after the game the idea of, hey, they didn't have their fastball collectively, and guys were dropping like flies already without Amari Cooper and Christian Benford. And then we see this guy, all in the blue medical tent. The press box couldn't even keep up with it. They're saying this guy's questionable, and then you're seeing him on the field again. It's like it was a day to battle for the Bills. And how much do you think overall from a team standpoint, Vic, that is as important as the individual accomplishment of Bass.
Huge. Again, going back to that word resilience and holding your own and facing the tough circumstances, the adversity. I mean, that's what measures success in pretty much anything, but especially in sports and particularly in football. So I think that's one way to look at it. But back to the point, as you know, we have the three of us discuss during the game, give our thoughts in the press box. Yeah, that slow start was bothersome once again because I found the notion that we would be talking about that again here as we are, but talking about that and others would talk about that as that's problematic because they're supposed to outgrow that at some point. I was thinking a lot of it had to do with finding that sort of chemistry that might have been lacking, new faces, all that. Well, we're far enough into this. We're midway through. You can't be, introducing yourself to anybody, even though with the injuries maybe they will. But the bottom line, I think, is they've got to figure out, and you heard Josh Allen say, figure out how to consistently have stronger first halves.
I was trying to be positive for at least like 6 minutes.
He took that. He took that and ran.
No microphone, and he's going straight for the jugular. Lindsey, you've seen so many of these slow starts. What did you hear from Allen and McDermott and others after the game to say, or try to give some sort of an explanation, even though Sean told me a couple weeks ago, if I had an explanation, we certainly wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, again, not much was said because I feel like this has been a talking point the past couple of weeks, and then we thought maybe we got away from it, but again, the start was certainly not what we had hoped for. I think just the main focus was the fact that it was kind of switched and flipped the switch in terms of, okay, but we came back, right? The second half turnover, see how we can respond, things like that. But yeah, I think it's honestly a lot of the same conversation when it comes to the slow starts. We need to get out there faster, and we know that that's a priority.
It's really defies logic, right, guys, that you could consistently be so blah in the first half while in the same way so consistently flipping a script. Have you seen something like that before, Vic? I can't explain it.
I'm sure I have, but this would be my another general thought I have from this game. Let's give the Dolphins some credit here. That the team that the Bills basically manhandled back in Miami back in September, with Tua Tagovailoa playing most of the game. That's, of course, the concussion game. He misses the next 5 weeks, counting a bye, and then comes back last week against Arizona. Plays pretty well, and today he was exceptional. His numbers were strong. He only missed 3 passes, had a wonderful passer rating. He was doing the job. I thought their pass rush especially was also giving Allen fits by design, just the way it was a combination of zone coverages and pass rush, and there's no doubt Allen was struggling a bit with that until maybe they figured some things out in the second half.
Chop Robinson had some moments as a rookie. Yeah. I thought he looked good. No Jalen Phillips, no Bradley Chubb still for them. The Dolphins, you talk about resiliency, there's a lot of things you can ding them for, but some of their top dogs have not been out there on the field. Here's the interesting thing, Lindsey, to me. Tua was incredibly efficient, but the offense was not the high-engine machine, octane passing attack that we've seen. Jalen Waddle, I'm getting a text from a buddy of mine who's like, is he still on the team? And it took him till dang near the end of the fourth quarter. He ends up catching a touchdown. Tyreek Hill was pretty much a non-factor for a lot of the game until late. But it was Devon Achane, Raheem Mostert, and even Jaylen Warren to a little extent here that they were just rolling with. And that brings up the question of the Bills' run defense again.
Well, right. And a lot of that success, as you got to there, was done on the ground. And Taron Johnson talked about it after. The Dolphins are known as an explosive offense, right? So he said at a certain point, right, Vic, he said, it's almost like going into the game that you're going to need to limit those plays as much as you can. Yep. So they almost had to let a little bit of that slide. Yeah. But, I mean, that was his reaction to that. But they were certainly finding a lot of success in the ground game.
They picked their poison, and their poison was, we don't want to get beat like by big quick strike plays, those cheap touchdowns, whatever you want to call them. We'll let them run. And that's essentially what John said. I thought it was a very blunt and honest answer about a divisional opponent. We'll let those two very good backs get their yards. But basically the theory of the Bills defensively, I'm sure Bobby Babich and Sean McDermott, was that isn't how they're going to beat us. If they beat us, it's going to have to be those big playmakers.
The Bills made that same sort of a strategy years ago against Kansas City Chiefs, a game where Patrick Mahomes was very limited, but the running attack was just rolling and rolling and rolling. The Bills lose that game. They win this game here against Miami. Let's talk about the unsung heroes, the everybody eats kind of script returning here. Quinton Morris, Mac Hollins, Ray Davis, like these are the guys scoring touchdowns for them with no Amari Cooper again and Curtis Samuel. I don't even know if I really saw him out there on the field. He was questionable coming in. Those are the horses they ran with, and collectively those are the ones who made the big plays.
Yeah, I thought for at least going into the game, it would be a problem not having Cooper's presence there, because I thought that would help open things up. Him being there just helps open things up for others, even if he's not the one targeted or catching the ball, which was pretty much the case against Seattle. But kudos to that crew and to Josh Allen. What did he do? That was probably as consummate. This was probably as consummate a game where Josh Allen was lifting those receivers, elevating, right? The rising tide, lifting all boats.
And then you got Ray Davis again. I mean, I'd say he's my unsung hero of the game. I feel like he's always sparking this offense. He's always finding ways to have those explosive runs. Honestly, in the run game and in the pass game as well. And he touched on it afterwards, saying that he just credits Josh Allen for trusting him so much and trusting a lot of the other rookies as well, right? Because they've had such a large impact these past few weeks.
Let's have a Josh Allen MVP conversation, guys, midway through the season here. The numbers are not 300 yards passing, 4 touchdowns week in and week out, but they're 7-2. And if you're actually watching the games, and the Quinton Morris touchdown is the latest example, you just see these moments that showcase that, yes, this guy should be in the conversation for the most valuable player in football. Where do you think Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, probably 2 others in that conversation?
It is the Josh Allen experience week in and week out. But on top of that, we'll go back to a topic that, just kind of got killed last week with the interceptions. I mean, that's an incredible stat. The fact that he went through 8 weeks, or rather 7 weeks without an interception. The interception, the turnover today, not on him.
Oh, it was bounced off Keon Coleman.
Yes, that's
the one last week wasn't really either. Amari Cooper slipped, and it's a timing route. Yeah. And I know you mentioned kind of like the timing type thing, but that was not on him either.
In my opinion, he's having a career year. I think he has to be right up there. I know after the Bills lost, it was 2 straight, right? Those talks kind of fizzled a little bit, but I definitely think he deserves to be right up there.
As a voter for that award,
all right, tell us what you're doing.
But there are certain rules that the Associated Press puts forth with the discussion of this, primarily because of those bets that people make on who's going to win it. So I'm not giving away anything in that regard. I will acknowledge, you said it best, Lindsey, career year. He's playing some of his best football, and it's different than the kind of football he was playing, again, when it was the Allen to Stephon Diggs type of offense, or with Gabe Davis in there, Dawson Knox in the early going, and how that offense was rolling, and how the team was really dominating offensively. This is different. This feels different. And this feels actually a bit more sustainable, because if today was any indication, you can, if you got people hurt, or you just have, whatever it is, you have a bevy of people that he knows how to take advantage of.
I want to give a shout out to Kyer Elam, one of those guys thrust into action because of Christian Benford's injury. He separated his shoulder in the game, popped it back in, and said afterwards, there was no shot I was not coming back into this game. You would have had to knock me out. And that's the type of rallying call that guys are doing.
Pain just hearing that.
Well, and I go, how's your shoulder? And he starts like lifting it all up. And I'm like, the medical marvels, I suppose. I want to wrap it up on this. Trade deadline is upcoming here. Oh,
can I add?
You can.
Can I add? Because there was another player that I thought you were going to get to really quick, and similar situation. Second quarter, Taron Johnson out with an injury. He's really the guy who kind of turned the tides in this one. And I feel like he deserves some recognition here, okay? Forced the fumble, and I feel like after that, Josh Allen said he told them in the locker room coming out of the half that the defense was going to make a turnover and they were going to go down and score, and that's exactly what they did, and that kind of just kick-started everything.
You talk about a team that only technically has 2 captains named. We understand the place in that room that Taron Johnson holds. Now, we will wrap it up now. Is this okay?
Sorry, that's fine.
You're fine. That was a good one to say.
Thank you.
Trade deadline is upcoming this week. We know the Bills already made a move to address the wide receiver position. I'll kind of go down the line, whether it's because of injuries or just adding another piece to the mix for this stretch run here. Do you feel they should, and do you think they will make a move, and if so, where?
Well, I never would rule out Brandon Beane doing something because that is what he does. Now, I'm not saying do it just for the sake of doing it, have a purpose behind it. I feel like where the biggest questions have been, I know people always want to see, offensive sparks, but I don't see anything out there that's going to bring that, is the defensive side of the ball and the pass rush and the things that ultimately close games out, make the difference. How about doing something to help that run defense, however you can do it? I don't think there's a miracle, one player answer that can be acquired in a trade that's going to change things necessarily, but I'm certain he would have his eye out for that, and maybe Beane, I'm talking about, his eye out for something in the back end.
I think Vic said it best. Never count anything out from Brandon Beane. But I don't know if I agree with, I don't think there's anything coming offensively. I think Cooper was the answer there that they were looking for. But yeah, maybe on the defensive side of the ball, but then again, I'm not really sure, as Vic said.
To me, I've been banging the drum since the offseason for additions to the pass rush.
Yeah.
I don't know if financially a guy like Zadarius Smith of Cleveland, going back to that well with the Browns, if they could fit that under the cap currently with the way things are, and they're pretty tight up against it. But I think even though you get Von Miller back, we kind of joked, we forgot Von was even back out there until he got an offsides penalty on a critical third down. Yes, we see what Greg Rousseau can do, but A.J. Epinesa, I think those are two maybe you can count on. Dewan Smoot, hurt. We don't know about his status moving forward here. He's been solid, also a guy that can kick in. Pass rush is something that those guys also, Brandon Beane, Sean McDermott, are always saying you can never have enough of them. And how often do you see at the end of playoff games it come down to some disruption in the backfield?
Okay, so you heard it here first. If it happens, Jon Scott gets the credit.
Well, if it's Zadarius Smith, that would be really calling my shot there. He had a sack today for Cleveland, so we'll see out there. But the trade deadline's upcoming earlier this week, and then the Bills headed off to Indianapolis next weekend to face the Colts. Vic Carucci, no microphone. Lindsey Moppert with her own. I'm Jon Scott for Channel 2 Sports.